It doesn't work.
It works.
Okay. But we do.
It works.
It's working now?
It works, yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, that was good. Okay. Well, it's not afternoon yet. Good morning. I'm here joined by members of the California Legislative Black Caucus, as well as members of the various other caucuses here in the Assembly. The Progressive Caucus, the Women's Caucus, the Chicano Caucus, are all present today to talk about our ACA 5, which is the California Opportunity Act, or the California Act for Economic Prosperity. It's been 24 years, 24 long years, since Proposition 209 was promoted as a civil rights initiative. However, it focused on, in its campaign, on education and with the intent to divide the various ethnic communities to fight over the scraps at the University of California. We know that now, as we look at it, that it was really intended to basically have an impact on business and contracting and the economic life of California. This law served as an impediment to state contracting, hiring, and legislative policies addressing economic and social disparities experienced by women and people of color. It should be disturbing to us to hear that women-owned and minority-owned businesses lose $20 million in lost contracts in San Jose per year, $30 million per year in Oakland, $200 million a year in San Francisco, and $820 million per year with contracts with the state of California, totaling over $1.1 billion a year due to the passage of Prop 209. This estimate is conservative because it does not capture cities like Los Angeles and San Diego. In the 6 years that followed the passage of Prop 209, contract awards to women business enterprise dropped significantly from 6.7% to 3.8% statewide. In cities like San Diego, and when I was chair of the Citizens Equal Opportunity Commission, contracts owned by white men in construction was over 97%, with less than 3% for all women and minorities in the area of contracting. The charts in this room show the deep drop in small business from women-owned and minority-owned businesses contracting with the state of California since the law's passage in 1996. From perhaps being the top performing state in the country in the early 1990s with our Caltrans disadvantaged business enterprise contracting, California has fallen to one of the two worst performing states relative to its diversity, putting California in the company of states with much less diversity in its population, such as Nebraska and Vermont, in terms of the level of disadvantaged business enterprise contracting. Currently, California is blocked from giving public dollars to programs like Science Camp for Girls and programs that promote African American and Latino males. Such programs would either have to drop their focus or basically rely exclusively upon private donations external to the institutions. Even though research has demonstrated that school leaders and teachers of color improve outcomes for not only the students of color, but for all students, we are actually prevented from recruiting those individuals in our districts. Prop 209 has hindered public policy and maintained economic disparity long enough, and now is the time to let voters decide if we want to revisit this policy after 24 years. I would like to have members here to speak concerning this issue as well. We have with us Assemblymember Santiago, Renee Frazier, who is with us from the communications business. But prior to her, I'm sorry, we have Assemblymember Lorena Gonzalez. We also have an Assemblymember, a Senator, she's not here yet, she will be here. Dr. Alicia Smith from the Ed Trust West, Ben Pan from the Chinese for African American for Affirmative Action, and Edwin Lombard, who is the Black Chamber of Commerce. We'll begin with Assemblymember Santiago, followed by Assemblymember Gonzalez.
Thank you, Dr. Weber. But I'm going to make this pretty simple. This is a historic moment where we get to push back on some of the racist policies that we've seen in the past. Because let's call it for what it is. When some of us were in college, and we saw Pete Wilson's worst of politics, and they pushed 227, 226, 209, 187. And if you take a look at what happened during that era, it was a constant attack on everybody who looked different. It was a pushing back of the civil rights movement, people who didn't want to see the kind of change we want now. And here we are today, no different when you have the Trump administration continuously attacking people of color, continuously attacking immigrants, continuously attacking us if we look different than he who sits in the White House. Let's call it for what it is. We've got an opportunity now to write history. And it's no coincidence that when Prop 209 passed, we've seen a decline of enrollment in African American and Latino students in the UC system. We've seen a decline of contracts in the same populations. But let's be very clear about what we're doing today. We're righting a wrong. We're continuing that civil rights fight. We're making sure that California is represented not only in the universities, but in the contracting world. This is the fight of our lifetime. We have got to change back the policies of racism and hatredism that we saw in the past. And we've got an opportunity now by repealing Prop 209. I want to thank you, Dr. Weber, for taking the lead. Thank our colleagues and friends who are here with us today.
My name is Lorena Gonzalez, and I am chair of the California Legislative Black Caucus. I, like probably every person my age who is either a woman or a person of color, benefited from affirmative action. I was at UCLA Law School, finishing my first year when this proposition passed. I was at UCLA Law School thanks to affirmative action. I was the first in my family to go to college. I was the first in my family to go to graduate school. I was the first in my family to go to law school. And what I saw over those 3 years, the difference between being recruited into our top public universities, given a scholarship, yes, based on the fact that they wanted a young woman of color to attend their school, because they thought that the diversity of that entering class would provide a different type of diversity in law, and they were right. To go from that, a class that was representative, not completely of our population, but I wasn't alone, to a situation the next year and the year after that, where the number of people of color dropped dramatically. And what we saw is the diversity of the profession dropped dramatically. We were taking steps forward, and Prop 209 put a huge step backward. It's time to undo this. I know as a Latina, watching my community, those young kids deserve the same opportunity, the opportunity to succeed and to prove to people, despite the fact that you have nobody in your family or in your community that has done something, that you can succeed if somebody gives you an opportunity. That's what we're trying to do here. And I'm happy to be in this coalition at this history-making moment to try to, once again, as we've done on other bad propositions, turn back the clock and allow us once again to be the diverse state that we deserve.
Good morning. My name is Holly Mitchell. I am of the generation of political activists turned policymakers who cut our political organizing teeth around the passage of a number of oppressive, offensive ballot initiatives, and 209 is certainly one of them. Today, not only am I a proud member of the California Legislative Black Caucus, but I stand here today representing the California Legislative Women's Caucus, the leadership of the caucus. Senator Connie Leyva, who was chair, and Assemblymember Monique Lamone, who was vice chair. While women entrepreneurs are flourishing nationally, here in California, women-owned businesses are not getting their fair share of opportunity. California is home to the greatest number of women-owned businesses in the nation, with about 1.5 million women-owned firms employing more than 1 million people and generating a combined annual revenue of nearly $225 billion. And yet, a 2015 study showed that businesses owned by women and people of color lose $1.1 billion annually in government contracts. ACA 5 would level the playing field for women by creating a fair process for government contracts and state hiring. By expanding job opportunities for women, the state of California can take a critical step to meaningfully addressing pay equity and closing the gender gap. When you know better, you do better. And with ACA 5, we have an opportunity to unlock the economic potential of California's future. It's an opportunity whose time has come. Realizing the economic potential of women-owned businesses requires changes in policies, business practice, attitude, and culture. This is why we, the leadership of the California Legislative Women's Caucus, Senator Connie Leyva and Assemblymember Monique Limon, stand in strong support of repealing Proposition 209. Thank you.
Renee Frazier? Okay, didn't see you.
All one behind you. Vertically challenged, isn't it? My name is Renee Frazier. I'm the president and CEO and founder of Frazier Communications. We're a $30 million advertising and marketing communications firm in Los Angeles. 22 years in business. And I'm most proud of our Talk, Read, Sing campaign for First Five California. But I'm here today to talk about women business owners. And I want to thank Dr. Weber and all the others who have stood up here to talk about the importance in California of taking seriously how we turn back and bring up the potential for women, as Holly Mitchell just said. ACA 5 will reinstate affirmative action in public contracting, hiring, and public education so women and people of color can achieve their dreams and lead our state forward. As was said, I am one of 1,550,000 women who own businesses. And I have to tell you, as I look to the future and I look at the individuals we hire, we want a diverse, fresh perspective. We need them coming through the pipeline. We need well-educated young people from all across California. And we know that Prop 209 has held us back. In the area of contracting, it's been stated over and over, $1.2 billion, that's $27 billion that went into other people's pockets from government contracts over the last over 20 years. $27 billion that should have been shared with women and diverse companies. ACA 5 would level the playing field for women and create a fair process for government, especially when it comes to the University of California. And the last point I'd like to make is, as we unleash the potential, we need to expand employment opportunities for women in the state of California and make sure we get women equal pay for equal work so we can change and close the gender gap in the state of California. The last point I'll make is, as we look at that gap, we see that women of color and single moms make 60 cents on the dollar compared to white men doing the same work. That has to change. ACA 5 will help us change that. Thank you all. Not sure who the next one is.
Well, thank you, Assemblymember Weber, for your leadership and your commitment to equity and ensuring opportunities for all Californians. As Executive Director of Education Trust West and as co-chair of the California Department of Education's Closing the Achievement Gap Task Force, I work with educators and advocates to shine a light on opportunity gaps that separate students of color and students from low-income communities from other youth. For California to achieve its full potential, we need to prepare all of our students to succeed in the workforce of today and tomorrow. But the hard truth is, we're falling short. We need to do much better, much faster. California is at a crossroads. Our first ever statewide science assessment revealed that less than a third of all students are on track for success. And we're failing even more acutely to support Black and Latinx students from low-income backgrounds, and English learners. Simply put, we have a long way to go to prepare the workforce that will power our state's future and give everyone an equal shot to participate. And one of the reasons is that schools across California are facing a critical teacher shortage. In particular, we're at a crisis point with our failure to recruit and retain teachers of color and teachers, especially women, in crucial fields like math, science, and technology. Our students can't be what they can't see. And research shows that having teachers of color matters for all students, especially students of color. But just 35% of California teachers are teachers of color, even though students of color make up more than 3/4 of our student body. People around the state, from families to legislators to educators, agree we need to increase teacher diversity. But Prop 209 stands in the way. It restricts policymakers and strips California of critical tools to fight discrimination. Repealing this antiquated law can help open the doors of opportunity to students of color, especially women, Black, and Latino students who want to serve their communities and go into teaching. If we are serious about giving every California student and future generations an equal shot at success in school and in their careers, it starts with repealing Prop 209. Thank you, Dr. Weber, for your leadership. We look forward to working with you and the Opportunity for All Coalition to make sure every Californian has an equal shot at success. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you, Dr. Weber. My name is Vincent Pan. I'm the co-executive director of Chinese for Affirmative Action. CAA was founded in 1969 to address historic and persistent institutional racism that systematically excluded Chinese Americans from major sectors of the labor market, that denied us equal access to vital public resources and services, and that obstructed full participation in civic affairs and government at local, state, and national levels. For over 50 years, CAA has used affirmative action as a critical policy tool to advance fairness and equality for Chinese Americans in these and other areas. We have worked closely with other Asian American organizations and like-minded African American, Latinx, Native American women, and LGBTQ groups to promote equality for all who have been historically excluded. We are proud of our track record that spans U.S. Supreme Court cases that have established the rights of limited English proficient students to the establishment of the permanent City College campus in Chinatown. But we are painfully aware that we have a long way to go. Today, we are here to enthusiastically support Opportunity for All and the repeal of Proposition 209. When we repeal Prop 209 and reinstate affirmative action, all communities, including Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders, will have a better shot at achieving their dreams and leading our state forward. Repealing Prop 209 will specifically help end discrimination in public contracting, public education, and public employment. In contracting, small business owners simply don't get the fair shot at jobs because of Prop 209. In cities where affirmative action is legal, like Chicago or Atlanta, Asian American-owned businesses win more in public contracts than they do in San Francisco and in Los Angeles. In employment, Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders, like other community members, deserve to be and to have first responders from their communities, teachers and principals who know their needs firsthand, and public health workers with cultural and linguistic competency. In education, the reality is that the rate of admission of Asian American students into UCLA and UC Berkeley decreased since 1996 after Prop 209 took effect. Universities and colleges that practice affirmative action have seen greater gains in Asian American enrollment than schools that don't. California is one of only 8 states that don't allow affirmative action. Despite what opponents of equal opportunity have told us, the ban on affirmative action puts the entire state of California at a disadvantage. Ultimately, repealing Prop 209 is acknowledging that our different communities face different challenges, but all of us can be united behind Opportunity for All.
Good morning. My name is Edwin Lombard. I'm the president and CEO of the California Black Chamber of Commerce. Our main purpose and function in the state is to represent and advocate for Black businesses throughout California on legislative and regulatory issues. As legislators are functioning and legislating at a 50,000-foot level, my responsibility is to make sure that they're aware of the effect that this legislation is gonna have on our black small businesses. It can sometimes be a struggle, but we need a voice and we need a seat at the table. We were led to believe that Prop 209 was gonna level the playing field and make it equal for everyone to have opportunities here in the state of California. I beg to differ. What we see is just the opposite. Our black small businesses only receive less than 1/2 of 1% of all state contracts. I'll say that again, less than 1/2 of 1% of all state contracts. It's a direct reflection of Prop 209. Today we want to support Assemblywoman Dr. Shirley Weber in her effort to repeal 209. We believe that as the tide rises, all boats rise with it. And as the black community would rise, so should California. Black Americans are at least 6% of the population in the state of California. This is the 5th largest economy in the world. There's no reason why our black small businesses are not receiving more state contracts. ACA 5 will help solve this situation, at least make a clear playing field, and help California be a more diverse state. Look around this room. Look at how diverse we are in the state of California. It's time for us to move into the 21st century and become the diverse state that we're supposed to be and give everyone an equal opportunity to succeed. So Dr. Weber, thank you so much, and I am happy to be a part of this coalition, and we will fight to see that this is done, no matter what it takes. Thank you.
That concludes our speakers today. I want to thank those who have come to participate. If there's opportunity, we'll have a few questions that some of you may have that we can answer. We don't want to stay here too long because, of course, we're not supposed to be in big groups with a whole lot of people. 100,000, we're okay. We're protected. I can count on you. Tell me that. Okay.
That's what I read in the paper.
But I want to thank all of the members who are here, the legislators who are here that are supportive, and there's a lot of others who could not make it today who are in other meetings. But we've had a very robust discussion with regards to ACA 5 and the California Act for Economic Prosperity and Equality for All in the last few months. I want to thank the Equal Justice Society, Eva Patterson, for bringing the research and the information to us. Some of you have your packets, and in it is some research documents that you should surely pay attention to and to read, because it really shows in very vivid way what is happening with regards to Prop 209 and how it has negatively impacted us, not only in terms of the academics that people focus on, but also in the businesses and the other opportunities that are there for us. So I want to thank all of the legislators who are here. I want to thank also our member of the Board of Equalization, who's also here with us today. This has been this is the beginning of a journey. And the good thing, of course, is that we finally have gotten additional data and information that indicates that this is doable. Our first hurdle, of course, will be to get this bill through the Assembly. We need 54 votes to accomplish that. We're going to be working very hard to make sure that all of our members in the Assembly understand that it is important that we pass this bill, so we'll put it on the ballot for November. We will then work with the Senate to make sure that our Senate knows that this is an important bill, that we want to get it through the Senate House, and then we'll be working vigorously with all of you to make sure that it passes in November on the ballot. We have all survived and endured Proposition 209. And it has not been a luxury. It's been something that we've had to do at our universities to basically make and continue to work to make an opportunity. But it's been a hard journey, and it's caused a lot of losses in terms of looking at the economic disparities and the differences between the various communities that are there. We are determined to make a change. Our students behind us from the various universities are here also because they recognize the fact that it is important for them and for their future and for generations to come after them, that California has a population or diverse work environment, a diverse school environment, and that we are Californian. And that should state means something when it comes to diversity and equal opportunity and access. We're one of the few states in the nation that have eliminated affirmative action, and we have seen the impact that it has had on this state and on all the things around us. California is known for being the best. It is now time for us to step up and make that a reality. So I want to thank you for coming. If there's one or two quick questions, we can take them. If not, you can meet with us individually. Yes.
Obviously, 6 years ago, there was an effort to address just the college admissions piece, and it made it through the Senate, but then ran into political problems and was not successful. And I'm wondering if you could speak to what you think has changed in the intervening time that will allow, this effort to be successful.
This is one of the changes. We have some new folks in the House, and we have a different set of mission and purpose with regards to why we're doing this. I think in addition to that, the data that comes out that's very clear, that most of us were focused only on the educational piece, without realizing the other things that have took place throughout the state, and that has had a negative, a devastating effect on those realities. And most of us didn't know that at the time, that even though Prop 209 was promoted as an educational issue, it really was an economic issue. It was a switch and bait kind of reality. It was like following the shiny object, and we followed the shiny object without realizing that the real deal that was supported by businesses throughout the state had very little to do with the university, had everything to do with economics. And we have seen that, and the data bears it out. So I think we have a different kind of vision about why we're doing this now, a different kind of reaction to it, and that it's not just only about the schools and the universities, but it's about all of California that needs to change. And this is our effort to bring the real deal, the real information forward. And I think that's a difference that's there. The last time, I guess this came forward in 6 years ago, I was barely a member just coming in to this house. And there wasn't a lot of discussion about it. And eventually there became a lot of discussion. But we have a strong force now. And we've had a press conference, so all of you will go tell everybody that we're here. But equally important, we have a commitment to try to make it happen. And interestingly enough, the impetus for this came from obviously external to the Capitol, from outside. But it also came from the university, the students. The student leadership at the University of California has taken a vote to basically support this bill. When I was at UC Berkeley, the number one thing students asked me before this all happened was, what can you do to reverse Prop 209? They saw the impact in the selection of faculty and the people that had to help them and to mentor them, and those kinds of things, and the negative impact it had on that campus, and the kind of racism that was growing. And they were just concerned that we had done some things that did not promote the kind of environment they wanted at UC Berkeley. And I think some of them are here today who were at the forum who asked me, what are you guys gonna do about Prop 209? Any other questions? Thank you very much. We look forward to moving forward with this, and we hope that you will be a part of that team that brings it forward and puts the information out in a correct manner.
Please everyone to stay and hang up, hold up your signs, please. We just want to do one last quick photo.
One photo of all the signs.
Yeah, hold up your signs, please. Hold them up higher. Higher in the back so you can see. Great.
ACA5.
ACA5.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
ACA5. ACA5. ACA5.